Hello everyone. In this class, we will discuss mainly about surface tension and surfactant. Okay, last class we have discussed about compliance. Now, this is a trial method. I am trying with this notes. So, a scientist named Von Neergaard in cats, he took out lungs. All of a sudden, I don't know why he got that idea. He took out lungs from cats. He initially filled those lungs with saline, and he measured the transpulmonary pressure and lung volume changes. Then he measured when it was with air, and again he measured the transpulmonary pressure and change in the lung volumes, and he plotted those graphs and observed there is a difference when the lungs are filled with water and when they are filled with air. What is the difference? You will see, we already saw in one graph. You'll see in the next page. See, elastance, also known as elastic recoil of the lungs. This is exactly opposite to the compliance. Compliance, we mainly talk about the ability of lungs to distort or distend. That mainly depends on the transpulmonary pressure. Elastance mainly depends on the elastic recoil of the lungs. So it is exactly reciprocal of the compliance. So the elastic recoil of lungs or elastance depends mainly on three things. One is the pulmonary cells stretchability, their compressibility, their elastic nature, and the extracellular matrix in the lung parenchyma that consists of elastin and collagen fibers. But these two things contribute only to 1/3 of the lung elastic recoil. 2/3 of the lung elastic recoil force. So you understand that lung has a recoil tendency towards interior. Chest wall has a elastic recoil tendency towards exterior, towards outside. Lungs will collapse inside. So this inward elastic recoil pressure is mainly contributed by surface tension, where the surface tension is present at the alveolar air-water interface. Alveolar epithelium has water above it, alveolar fluid above the alveolar epithelium. This water is present for mainly to help in diffusion of gases, and air is present in the alveoli. At this air-water interface, there is surface tension which accounts for 2/3 of this elastic recoil force of the lung. So that means the compliance of the lung, the ability to distort, to expand, and the compliance is mainly provided by the transpulmonary pressure, should overcome this opposing elastance. Again, in this elastance, 2/3 is contributed by the surface tension of air-water interface, and 1/3 by the elastic tissue of the lung, whether it is lung cells or else the elastin collagen fibers, mainly the elastin fibers. So when the compliance and transpulmonary pressure overcomes this opposing elastic recoil forces, then there will be lung distension. If they don't oppose, then there will be collapse, then there will be elastic recoil. So this is a Von Neergaard experiment. He recorded the transpulmonary pressures and lung volumes first in the saline filled lung. First in the saline filled lung. You can see the inflation curve and deflation curve with change in transpulmonary pressure. They follow each other with very less hysteresis. I told you in last class, hysteresis is the difference between this inflation and deflation curves. But when there is air, you can see a significant difference in the static lung compliance curves, transpulmonary pressure versus lung volume. There's a significant difference between these limbs. This is mainly due to surface tension. This is mainly due to surface tension of the air-water interface. So any liquid, especially water molecules, they have, attractive forces always directed towards other water molecules. But when they are exposed to a surface, and they are exposed to surface, especially when there is air above these water molecules, all the water molecules will try to come towards each other, pull towards each other. In all directions, they'll pull towards each other, away from the air, away from the air. So that's why if you see a raindrop, water falling through the air atmosphere assumes spherical shape, because first the surface area will be reduced to very much small surface area. It will be reduced to very small, and because all the water molecules exert maximum tension towards each other, they form a spherical raindrop. Similarly, if you take an air bubble, you take soap solution, if you blow through the ring of a soap solution, in your childhood you used to play, you make soap bubbles. In soap bubbles, definitely there is inside distending pressure. This distending pressure will try to expand the soap bubble, but the soap bubble do not burst immediately. Why? In soap bubble, what happens? Inside there will be air, outside there is air. The bubble is formed by water molecule layer. The bubble is formed by water molecule layer. All water molecules attached to each other with inside air and outside air. This forms your air bubbles, soap bubbles. In air bubble, so this distending pressure will try to expand this water layer, and if it is not opposed, this water layer will burst open. But the tension, surface tension, the attractive forces of these water molecules will try to pull the water layer inside. Distending pressure will pull it outside. So these two things will balance each other, forming an air bubble. So the distending pressure will balance the surface tension. So according to Laplace law, so pressure is equal to 2 times the surface tension divided by radius. See, pressure is a dependable factor. Surface tension is independent. Surface tension is specific for a particular interface. So surface tension for air-water interface is specific. Until unless there is no external agent, between air and water there is a constant surface tension. It differs from other medium. Surface tension changes with the interface. For air-water interface anywhere in the world, surface tension will be same. So then you can see that the pressure is inversely proportional to the radius. The pressure is inversely proportional to the radius because T is constant for a particular interface. So alveoli and air bubble has an analogy between them, except in few things. Air bubble is a complete sphere, whereas alveoli is not complete sphere. Different alveoli have different sizes. Okay, in our lung, different alveoli have different sizes, and alveoli are interconnected. There are small, interconnections between the alveoli, pores of Crohn, they call it as, study in your anatomy. There are small interconnections between the alveoli. So whatever might be the condition, okay, at our body temperature, let's say 37 degrees centigrade, the surface tension is force per the unit length of the interface between air and water. How much length is the surface? That is length. F is the force acting on the water molecules. For an air-water interface, the surface tension is constant. It is 70 dynes per centimeter of air-water interface length. So now let's take two air bubbles, imaginary air bubbles connected by a clamp. Okay, initially the valve of the clamp is closed. So the radius of the first bubble is 0.01 centimeter and radius of the second bubble is 0.005 centimeters. Because it is an air water interface, the bubble has air inside and water outside. What will be the pressures? Distending pressures are 2 into 70, so on. So how much is in the first bubble? It is 14 centimeters of water. Whereas in the second bubble, tension is same, but radius is less. So the distending pressure is 28 centimeters. How to frame this thing? The pressure required to keep this large bubble open is half the value of the pressure required to keep this small bubble open. Small bubble open. So small bubble requires more pressure for the same constant tension, because both are air water interface, surface tension is constant. Larger pressures are required to keep a smaller bubble open compared to the pressures required to keep open the larger radius bubbles. So this is what we get from Laplace law. So let's say we remove the clamp, then what happens? You know, diffusion. Always gases move from high pressure area to low pressure area. So slowly the small air bubble will empty into the larger air bubble because of this high pressure difference. Further radius decreases. Further, the pressure required to keep it distended increases. Further, the diffusion of gases occurs. Same thing we apply to alveoli. We take two alveoli connected to each other, and definitely they are of unequal sizes in our body. Let's say under same surface tension conditions, because alveoli also have air water interface 70-70. So if same thing happens in between two alveoli of different sizes, what happens? One alveoli will be completely collapsed into the larger alveoli. So lung also face same problem. Smaller alveoli tends to collapse into the larger alveoli. This is prevented by two things, mainly by principle of interdependence and the most important, surfactant. What happens if small alveoli collapse? You can say small alveoli collapse. So the total number of alveoli and the total alveolar surface area for gaseous exchange decreases. If you know, in your anatomy you might have studied, there are every pulmonary capillary is surrounded by three alveoli. These are our three-dimensional structure. Every pulmonary capillary is surrounded by three alveoli. Similarly, each alveoli will be surrounded by, you know, three pulmonary capillaries. It's like that. There are capillaries in between the alveoli. So we need more and more alveolar surface area for the gaseous exchange. If the number of alveoli decreases, the area for the gaseous exchange decreases. That's why we need all alveoli with uniform inflation, So this can be achieved by only two things. One is principle of interdependence and surfactant. So what is this alveolar interdependence is? So the alveolar interdependence is, see, all the alveoli are three-dimensional structures like bunch of grapes, and they're interconnected to each other. When one alveoli and an alveolus in a group try to collapse, then the surrounding alveoli are stretched. So the other alveoli will exert a recoil in resistance and pull this collapsing alveoli and prevent it from collapsing. This is nothing but alveolar interdependence. So when it tries to collapse, it tries to stretch them. So because of the elastic recoil forces, again the surrounding alveoli will pull this alveolus back to its shape. That is one thing. But it is responsible only for some extent of preventing an alveoli from collapse. But most of this surface tension is overcome by reduced by surfactant molecules. These surfactant molecules, pulmonary surfactant molecules, are reduce the surface tension at air water interface in the alveoli. How much they reduce? From 70 dyne per centimeter even towards 25 dynes, or depending on the amount of surfactant, it will be still further reduced. The more the surfactant molecules at the air water interface surface, less will be the surface tension. How this is achieved? The surfactant molecules will compete with the water molecules occupying the surface near air water interface in your alveoli. So this is what the surfactant molecule does. So in between the water molecules at the surface, these surfactant molecules will go and they will reduce the surface tension. They don't have any problem with interaction with the air. So they reduce the number of water molecules available at the surface, reducing the surface tension. What are these surfactant molecules which we are talking about? These are same like your lipids, which has hydrophobic end and hydrophilic end. The hydrophobic end will go towards the water side, interact with the water molecules, and hydrophilic end will go to the water side, and hydrophobic end toward the air surface. So they are made up of 90% of lipids and 10% proteins. So in that lipid also 50% lipid is made up of dipalmitoyl phosphatidyl choline. And proteins, it has 4 types of subunits, surfactant protein A, B, C, D. Go through those things in your textbook. Surfactant is mainly secreted by your type 2 alveolar cells, type 2 pneumocytes. These are the type 1 cells which are they occupy 95% of the surface area of your lung epithelium, alveolar epithelium. Their main function is to gaseous exchange. Their main function is gaseous exchange. In between type 1 cells, there are type 2 alveolar epithelial cells, also known as type 2 pneumocytes. What is their function? From the blood, they will take the precursors like lipid, amino acids, proteins, and they produce these surfactant molecules in the form of lamellar inclusion bodies. Lamellar inclusion bodies, they contain the surfactant molecules. Lipids and proteins are entering the lamellar inclusion bodies. They will be constitutive exocytosis. Continuously they will be exocytosed from the type 2 alveolar epithelial cells. Around 10% of the surfactant molecules are exocytosed every hour from your lung surface. They will be converted into tubular myelin. Tubular myelin, this finally contains the surfactant proteins. So these surfactant proteins on the tubular myelin will enter the, see, this is the alveolar fluid. This is the alveolar fluid lining alveolar epithelium, alveolar fluid. So lamellar inclusion bodies, they will become tubular myelin, and from the tubular myelin, the final surfactant molecules containing both lipid and protein will enter the alveolar fluid, and they form the bridge between the alveolar fluid and air. This is air, alveolar fluid, in between surfactant molecules. What is their function? They reduce the surface tension. They reduce the surface tension. Surface tension is from this direction to this direction. Because of the surfactant molecules, this surface tension, this collapsing elastic recoil force is prevented. Then these molecules are again recycled via macrophages. Some of them are recycled. The macrophages engulf them, destroying them into basic, fatty acids, amino acids entering the blood pool. Some will go back to the type 2 cells. Again, they will enter the lamellar bodies. Like this, recycling occurs. So type 2 pneumocytes of the alveoli and Clara cells of the respiratory bronchioles secrete pulmonary surfactant. What is the function of Clara cells? We discussed in previous class. In the entire respiratory tract epithelium, Clara cells mainly secrete the sol phase of the respiratory mucus. Gel phase is above. In the respiratory tract, there is epithelial side, sol phase and gel phase. What is important of this sol phase? The cilia will recoil back in the sol phase, and they will beat and push the gel phase towards your nasal side. Previous classes, previous videos, we can see that thing. So these are little bit extra information not given in your books. So the surfactant 90% made up of lipid, 10% made up of protein. In that there are 4 different types of protein. In that surfactant protein A acts as feedback for surfactant secretion. It acts as feedback for the surfactant secretion. Hereditary absence of surfactant protein B leads to respiratory distress in newborns. This also leads to respiratory distress in newborn, and they require a lung transplant. So any genetic disorder with absence of SPB require lung transplant. So every 10 hour, 10% of the lamellar body tubular myelin secretion is done by the lung. It is recycled by pulmonary alveolar macrophages, and most of it is recycled by the type 2 epithelial cells. Remaining thing, the synthesis, most of the chemical composition go through your textbook. I'm not discussing about that. What is the importance of this pulmonary surfactant? It reduces surface tension. When it reduces surface tension, it increases obviously the compliance. Compliance increases in infant respiratory distress syndrome, where there will be reduced surfactant synthesis, especially in the premature babies, okay, who are born 30 weeks of gestation, 32 weeks of gestation, where there is not enough surfactant synthesis. Surfactant synthesis occurs in newborn just before the birth. The surfactant synthesis starts just before the birth, especially 1 or 2 months before the birth, in the last trimester, under the influence of maternal glucocorticoids, cortisol hormone. But if there is a premature delivery, in the premature infant, there is no enough surfactant. So when the surfactant production is less in those infants, this leads to increase in surface tension. Increase in surface tension leads to increase in elastic recoil. This leads to reduced compliance of the lung. When the lung compliance decreases, what happens? Higher transpulmonary pressure is required to inflate the lungs. So the respiratory effort of the infant increases to cause the required transpulmonary pressure to increase the lung volume. So there will be difficulty in breathing in the infants, increasing the work of breathing. So surfactant is very, very important. It reduces the surface tension, thereby increasing the compliance. If surfactant production is less, surface tension increases, increase in elastic recoil, compliance decreases. Now, not only that, see, surface tension tries to pull the alveoli towards inside. They try to collapse the alveoli. So when it is pulling the alveoli, what happens to the interstitial space? When it's pulling the alveoli, the interstitial space volume increases. Boyle's law, pressure decreases when the hydrostatic pressure decreases. So adjacent to the interstitial space, there is pulmonary capillary. So from pulmonary capillary, fluid exudates into this interstitium. Fluid exudates into this interstitium. See, when surface tension is increased, interstitial volume increases. So Boyle's law, interstitial pressure decreases. Fluid from these capillaries enter the interstitium. This leads to accumulation of fluid here, pulmonary edema. And this excess fluid again will enter the alveoli. Instead of air, the alveolar fluid content increases. But this is prevented by surfactant molecules. This entire chain is prevented by the surfactant molecules. Surfactant molecules reduces the surface tension, thereby prevents all this chain of events. So if the surfactant decreases, all this chain of events occurs, leading to the shift in the fluid into pulmonary interstitium, causing pulmonary edema. This impairs with the gas exchange between alveoli and pulmonary capillaries. So last thing, surfactant mainly controls the inflation and deflation rates of alveoli of different sizes and causes dynamic adjustment. So causing uniform ventilation. So what they will do in those connected alveoli, they will try to maintain the pressures, distending pressures, same. So they tend to adjust the tension accordingly. See, two alveoli are connected, large alveoli and small alveoli. So there, if the pressures are unequal, you saw the air bubble example, what happens? The small alveoli collapse continuously into the larger alveoli. What is the function of surfactant? They adjust the tension T1 and T2 in such a way that the pressures are same. Pressures are same. So the radius will adjust accordingly. This is given in your book. Just go through your book. So they prevent the collapse of smaller alveoli. So these are the two alveoli. Let's say a larger alveoli which is increasing in size from 100 to 150 micron. Here what happens, the surfactant molecules will, you know, go adjust in such a way that they, because of the increase in the size, there is increase in surface tension, increase in elastic recoil, but the surfactant molecules will go and adjust in such a way that this prevents the further increase. So this increase and the action of surfactant molecules very rapid. In rapidly expanding alveolus, the action of surfactant will be very rapid. So they break the expansion, breaking, stopping the expansion very soon. When an alveolus is distinct, it's small alveolus distending from 100 to only 120 microns. So see, these all distensions of alveoli depends on the transpulmonary pressures at that particular lung portion. At the same time, they also depends on the resistance of this alveolar ducts, respiratory bronchiole, respect to respiratory bronchiole. If there is a fibrosis of this, increase in resistance of the alveolar duct, so different alveoli will have different expanding ratios depending on the transpulmonary pressures also. So simple. I will tell you an example. Let's say this is a vehicle going at 100 kilometers per hour speed, and this is a vehicle going at 60 kilometers per hour speed. So here, if we want both of these vehicles to stop at same distance, they stop at same distance, you will apply very fast brake here, and you will apply slow brake here, right? For a vehicle traveling at 100 kmph and for a vehicle traveling at 60 kmph, if you want them to stop at same distance, what you will do, you will brake hard here, you will brake slow here. Similarly, when alveoli are expanding, larger alveoli and expansion of the alveoli is braked by the surfactant molecules rapid compared to the slowly expanding alveoli. They are braked slowly. So finally, what is important is the surfactant molecules. See, always they adjust the pressure. They will try to make P1 is equal to P2. If they have to make P1 is equal to P2, I told you initially that T is same for air-water interface when there is no surfactant. If it is the scenario, then one alveoli will collapse into another alveoli. So they will adjust the surface tension in such a way that P1 is equal to P2. That is 2T1 by R1 is equal to 2T2 by R2, where there never will be any collapse of the alveoli. So opposite to in expiration also occurs the same thing. Opposite occurs in the expiration also. So what is the importance of surfactant? Reduce the surface tension, maintain the pressures between two connected alveoli same so that there is no interdiffusion between the alveoli. How they do that? They adjust the surface tensions. So problem is solved. So what are the apoproteins in the surfactant? SPA, SPB, SPC, SPD, their solubilities, their other functions, and most importantly, what happens when there is decrease in surfactant production. I will share this file in your Google Classroom. Go through it, go through your textbook. Most importantly, you should understand surfactant, pulmonary surfactant reduces the surface tension, increases the compliance. That is most important function, making breathing easy, reducing the work of breathing. If there is no surfactant, surface tension will be more, it will overcome the compliance, leading to collapse of the alveoli. At the same time, it also prevents pulmonary edema. and it also prevent the collapse of connected alveoli by maintaining the pressures between the alveoli, same P1 is equal to P2, by adjusting the surface tensions. So go through this. I hope you understood the class. Again, watch the video in loop. If you have any doubts, fill those doubts in the form. Okay, go through your textbook, go through this file which I will be sharing also. Thank you.